Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're uncovering how supported stepping transforms not just the legs, but the minds of children with cerebral palsy. For a long time, we've kind of just looked at mobility interventions primarily as physical therapy, right? But today, we're going to explore the fascinating evidence-based reality that upright mobility is actually a profound cognitive intervention. Let's get right into it. So what if learning to step wasn't just about legs at all, but about building the brain? We need to challenge this old assumption that walking is purely a physical milestone, because in reality, it's a cognitive awakening. When a child begins to move through their environment upright, they aren't just strengthening muscles, they're literally rewiring their neural pathways. The sheer act of moving from point A to point B under their own volition sets off an absolute explosion of spatial, social, and psychological development. This brings us to some incredible research inspired by Dr. Roseanne Carmoyan and Dr. Karen Adolph. They revealed a fascinating truth. Early upright mobility directly impacts the development of visual spatial memory and cognition. They showed that typical kids provided with augmented mobility scored way higher on visual spatial memory tests than those without. In fact, Dr. Adolph's work showed that the spatial skills infants learn while crawling don't even carry over to walking. When an infant first stands up, it's a brand new cognitive ballgame. So giving a child with motor impairments a gait trainer isn't just helping them step, it's giving them cognitive tools they'd otherwise completely miss out on. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the brain-mobility connection. Second, why on-time mobility matters. Third, active exploration and socializing. And finally, the F-words framework. Section 1, the brain-mobility connection. We're currently in the middle of a massive paradigm shift in pediatrics and neurorehabilitation. We are finally moving away from this outdated wait-and-see approach. The old model was, frankly, highly clinical. It looked at passive body structure and often waited until a child was much older before introducing stepping devices. But this new paradigm, it's proactive, it's dynamic, and it prioritizes active participation. It recognizes that if we wait too long to provide a means of mobility, we're inadvertently delaying the child's brain-building opportunities. Let's talk about object permanence. It's the understanding that objects still exist even when you can't see them, and it's a cognitive skill essentially unlocked by independent locomotion. Kids who lack self-produced locomotion often face delays in these crucial spatial skills, which are actually the foundation for language and attachment. Think about it. If you drop a toy out of sight and you literally cannot physically move your body to go look for it, why would your brain develop the understanding that the toy is still there? Self-produced locomotion forces the brain to map its environment. It teaches the child that they can actually affect their world, and that completely shifts their psychological development. Section 2. On-time mobility matters. Now, looking at this timeline shows the absolute urgency of the 9 to 15-month window, especially for children with significant mobility challenges, specifically those at GMFCS levels 4 and 5. You see, 9 to 15 months is exactly when typically developing children pull to stand and start stepping. If a child isn't sitting by 8 months or walking by 15 months, bringing in a dynamic gait trainer helps mirror that typical developmental trajectory. We absolutely must provide on-time mobility. If we wait until a kid is 3 or 4 years old to introduce a stepping device, we've already missed that critical window where rapid cause-and-effect learning naturally occurs. 10,000. A typical toddler takes about 10,000 steps every single day. Now, contrast that with a non-ambulatory child with cerebral palsy, who might only achieve a tiny fraction of this without a gait trainer. This is a massive exercise gap. If a child only practices walking during a weekly physical therapy session, they're maybe getting a few hundred steps a week. A gait trainer bridges this gap, providing the crucial repetition and endurance training that growing bodies and brains desperately need. When we look at dynamic supported stepping parameters, the research is super clear. Allowing children to experience safe postural errors, meaning letting them fall safely, leads to rates of motor development that vastly exceed baseline expectations. It's not just about strapping a kid in and doing the work for them. These parameters, especially the error experience, are vital. In a dynamic gait trainer, a child can lose their balance safely, which signals the brain to correct its posture. Studies show that when toddlers with CP engage in this intensive, challenging, unconstrained stepping practice, like 3 times a week for 30 minutes, their motor development can leap anywhere from 3 to 15 times faster than their baseline. That is a real game changer. Section 3. Active exploration and socializing. When you provide a child with an assistive stepping device, you bypass their stability problems and unlock true autonomous exploration. Just notice how engaged a child becomes with their toys and environment when they don't have to spend every ounce of their cognitive energy just trying not to fall over against gravity. The device takes over the heavy lifting of postural control, freeing up the child's brain to reach, play, discover, and build those essential spatial maps we talked about earlier. And then there's social participation. Being upright profoundly boosts social communication and emotional well-being. I mean, think about the psychological impact of spending your entire day looking up at people's knees. A gait trainer brings the child right up to eye level with their peers. This fosters self-esteem, it allows for natural nonverbal communication, and honestly, it just brings a tremendous amount of joy. It changes how the child sees the world, and just as importantly, how the world sees the child. It's also absolutely crucial that dynamic gait trainers allow movement in 3 planes: up and down, side to side, and forward and backward. Unlike traditional rigid systems that locked a kid tightly in place, dynamic trainers allow the natural triplanar pelvic motion needed to shift weight and refine motor control. If we constrain that movement, we end up teaching the brain an artificial compensatory walking pattern. Dynamic trainers support the child while still allowing those natural micromovements, leading to far better coordination and walking function. Section 4. The F-Words Framework. Let's look at the 6 F's of childhood disability: functioning, family, fitness, fun, friends, and future. These F-words are brilliant. They reframe therapy goals around what actually matters, shifting the whole dynamic to a collaborative coaching model with the family. For decades, therapy goals were super clinical, focused on things like degrees of range of motion or muscle tone. But the F-words translate complex classifications into language that parents and teachers actually understand and, more importantly, care about. It empowers the family to facilitate these changes in their own natural environments. This F-words lens focuses heavily on participation, proving that active participation actually benefits body structure and function. Because if you focus on fun and friends in a natural environment, the physiological fitness and functioning naturally follow. Put a child in a gait trainer at recess with their friends, and they're going to push themselves harder, step further, and stay upright longer than they ever would in a sterile clinical setting. Participation drives the physical benefits. We don't fix the body to prepare it for life. We use life to help heal and develop the body. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question. How can you advocate for on-time dynamic mobility to change a child's trajectory today? We have the research. We know that 9 to 15 months is the critical window, and we know for a fact that supported stepping develops the mind just as much as the muscles. The challenge now is advocacy. It's our obligation to make sure early dynamic mobility isn't just a rare exception, but the absolute standard of care. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.